Okay, Tuesday, September 21st. Full harvest moon out there tonight for the next couple days. If you get a chance, take a look. People all over the world, pets included, celebrating a full moon. If your friends are acting goofy, there's a reason. All right, so almost everybody's here. I'm getting a lot of questions over the past few days about a good number of things. One of them is um, my computer's freaking out or Blackboard's freaking out. Can I send you my homework? No, do not send me your homework ever, 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 unless I ask for it. If there's a problem and we can't figure it out through email or through texting, and you can't come to office hours, then I may ask you to send the homework. But you cannot send homework. Please don't send homework to me instead of Blackboard, because it's just my inbox is too full, and if everyone sends me their work, it'll just fill up. So what you need to do is, if you are almost done, or even if you're not done, let's say everything crashed last night and your computer is dead and you have nothing to hand in something, put your name on it and hand it in. Because if you have and right now, if you're sitting there thinking, you know, I'm going to ask Mr. Han a question, then hand it in. No, no, no. You hand it in right now before I notice. Because once I notice, if there's nothing there, a zero goes in there, and you can't change a zero. But if you hand in something else, and then you continue to work on it, you get it fixed, and you re-upload it before I grade it, then, you know, who's to say I won't notice? It's very
I
possible I
thought
won't
I
notice.
thought you said that it was due 11:59.
Pardon me?
I thought you
Oh
said it was
yeah, I'm talking about the homework. The
okay.
homework. The projects are due by midnight tonight.
Okay, okay, okay.
All right, so we're going to work on that in class today. What else did I want to say? That's about it. So let's take a look. What are we doing today? So we are in lab, so I'm going to go over here to course content, and I'm going to open the lab folder. I should start talking about project 2, even though project 1 is not done yet. So I'm going to go here into project 2, and let me give you what we have to have for next week. All right. So you're going to finish your project 1. We'll walk you through pattern making and how to finish project 1 today. And then after you upload that, you know, before midnight, and you complete the classwork that we do in class today, to get a head start on project 2, you need to go and find photos of models not wearing much clothing. Here, let me show you how to find that. I'm going to go into Google here. This is for our croquet tracing.
Can't see your
And if,
screen.
oh goodness, here we go. Thank you. All right, so to find pictures for our models here, let me show you. Actually, there's an example here of some project 2s, and it's the same one as project 1. So this was project 2 and 1. At the end of project 2, we're going to combine it, the PDF, with our project 1, and then we'll have our critiques. That's where everybody gets a chance to take a couple minutes and talk about their process, talk about their work, any difficulties they had, or talk about their, you know, their decision-making process for what flats they chose and how they drew their croquis. So you'll see here we have 2 croquis, and what I do want to have on your project 2s is a third page with the reference photos of where you got your references for your photographs. So this student didn't supply those. I have examples. I'll have to re-upload a better example of project 2. If I don't do that by an hour after, if I don't do that by tonight, somebody email me and reminding me that there's no third page here. But I do want you to go and find photographs that we're going to be tracing for models. The exception is if you know how to draw. If you're talented with a pen or pencil, or at least you're talented at tracing, you can go find a model wearing a photograph of a model wearing clothing that looks like the clothing that you have for project 1, and you're welcome to trace that with a pencil on tracing paper. And then after you've got that traced, you're going to ink it. So you may end up looking like something like this. Like you may have a tracing done of croquis with or models wearing clothing that's similar to what you have. Otherwise, you're going to be tracing a model that's not wearing much clothing. And with the pen tool in Illustrator, but if you don't want to use the pen tool, you're welcome to draw it out by hand, and then I'll show you how to color that. All right, so here's how we find our photographs here. I'm going to go type into Google catwalk swimwear. You could type in lingerie if you wanted, but I'm not going to do that. I don't want to get fired here. So you never know what pops up in Google searches. So swimwear seems to be safe. I'm going to try to find a model, and sometimes it helps to go to tools here, size, and you can choose like the resolution of your photographs. Since we're tracing these pictures, we're not using it in our actual artwork. It doesn't really matter the size, but just to demonstrate that for you, I'll show you a large size. And then for usage rights, at this point, because we're tracing, I don't think it really matters. But don't use somebody else's croquis unless you can find one that is free. If it's not free, we should definitely not use it. We don't want to put this in our portfolio. Super embarrassing if you go and interview someplace, somebody recognizes their artwork from where you're interviewing. You're definitely not going to get that job. So we want to make our own work when possible, and this is how we create our own croquis. We'll find a nice photograph here. Look for a model that's walking, that's not sitting or lying down or anything like that, and find one with some good visible shading on their skin, and then it will help us to draw in our croquis later. So I'm going to take this picture here. I'm going to copy this picture, and that's all we need to do. So for our project 2, and I'll start that here. I'll go Illustrator File, New. I'm still in the Print tab here. Be careful when you choose Print. This defaults to points. We want to change this to inches here, and we want 8.5 by 14 inches. Right, and then you can choose it. This is a portrait. If you want to go landscape, you can go landscape. Either one. We're going to have a minimum of 2 artboards, maybe 3. I can put 3 on here just in case, but really we only need 2 artboards. And then we're going to put our source image here, and it's a little bit big, so I'm going to hold my Shift key down, resize it, put it right here. I want you to have 2 models ready for tracing. On your artboards for next week. Find a pose that you don't mind staring at. I also need 2 close-up shots of faces for face tracing. So you can do like a glamour or no, close-up or glamour close-up, and then put down the name of somebody famous who you wouldn't mind staring at their face for like 4 hours or something. So I want you to find 2 pictures of a model that has some good features that you think you could trace for your croquis, right? Preferably a picture where they're looking straight at you. And so if you type in close-up glamour, you'll get some really nice photos here, and you can put those in as well. We'll use those next week when we're working on when I'm doing the demo for croquis drawing. So these are two models I get frequently from students, so I figure sometimes pictures come in very large. The black square is your artboard. I'm going to hold my shift key down. So for next week, in addition to having your in-class work done, come to class with Project 2 started. 2 models, 2 close-ups. Unless, of course, you're going to hand draw it. If you want to hand draw it, and I'm going to show you the exercise today of if you were to hand draw your croquis with a pen, with a pencil and paper. I'm going to show you how easy it is to color that in, and you may change your mind. Instead of tracing it with the pen tool, that's a demo I'll do next week. This week I'll show you how to color in a drawing that you did with a pencil and pen. All right, so one of those 2 examples. So if you haven't already downloaded this patterns and Pantone file from the internet, here we go. From here, it's this file right here. Pattern files download link. Just click on that and open the file. And we're going to do this one is in class. I'm going to do it. I'll work through this whole thing today, and I'll show you how to make a block pattern. I'll show you how to make a half drop. I'll show you how to make a hex, and then and then on your own, you're going to do the homework, which is basically the same thing. We have like 5 artboards. We have our block, half drop, and our hex pattern. The difference is right here, we're going to go to WGSN and grab 10 pictures from their pattern section, and we're going to mount those and label those. Then we're going to take each one of those pictures and we're going to use the pen tool and trace out one element, like this little dandelion looking thing here. So from picture 2, they traced out this little fern. They didn't trace it exactly, they just used this as inspiration. And once they trace out that motif, you have 10 motifs here. You're going to use 3 motifs per swatch and create 3 patterns, a block pattern, and then it's labeled here which motifs you're using, 2, 6, and 9, right here, 2, 6, and 9, and then they added a little bit of color to it, block, half drop, and hex pattern, right? Everything's labeled, and I'll walk you through that. And we have plenty of examples here of students doing different examples of this. All right, so that's where we're going today.
Is that something we download from?
No, this is the example that's in. That is an example.
Oh, so do we just make artboards then?
Oh, did I not include it on this? It's in the.
They're in there.
It's in the zip file, so you don't have to make your own artboards for that. If you download the file, if you download this file here, there's 2 files in here. There's both this one, your in-class work, and then there's a blank one with for our patterns. I mean, you could make your own. It's just 5 artboards, or you can use the one I provided, and it's 5 artboards with labels on the top.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so this is the first work that we're doing. Let me see. Is there something I'm supposed to be talking about in Spark? So this is labeled incorrectly. I was locked out from changing this from the previous professor, so the weeks are off because we're doing it in a different time frame. This should say week 4. Here's a little video that Mrs. Benitez put up of a professor who makes put lasers in her clothing and use little servos to move the lasers around and create like basically a human disco ball looking dress. It's quite interesting if you want to look at it. So this is what we're going to do today: mosaic, color groups, Pantones. I'll talk about live paint and image trace. I'll talk about creating your color groups and colorways for your project 1, and finish out your patterns Yeah, anything else? Here's some tutorials provided by Adobe if you want to go take a look at those. And then here are the instructions for the homework, which I just described earlier. 5 artboards. One artboard has 10 pictures from WGSN. The first artboard has 10 motifs you trace with your pen tool. And then you have 3 artboards in the middle. 1 grid, 1 brick, 1 hex. Make sure it's labeled, PDF, blah, blah, blah. This shouldn't say croquis, it should just say flats. And we'll talk about that more next week. All right, so let's get started. With this file here, we want to, this file and then our project, right? So last week we did this, and we had, it wasn't supposed to be 4 addresses in the front. It was supposed to be front and back. I hope I did that last week. So it should have looked something like this, but maybe backwards. All right. Make that a little bit bigger. Make this one a little bit bigger too, just to take up the space. You had like a front and back. Of course, these are all fronts here. I didn't have time to do the backs, but you'll have a front and back. And then we have our color story here, the 5 squares that we have, and then squares for our patterns. These should already be done. So let me show you how to find our color story. So I asked you all to come to class with a photograph that has 5 different colors from what you want. And I did this in lecture. I'll do it again. To get this mosaic, in order to get, where's my swatch panel? Let me reset. Windows, Workspace, Reset, Essentials Classic. Here's my swatch panel. All right, so I need to find a color, a folder here with like 5 of these colors to use for my project. So I'm going to take this photograph and create a mosaic of swatches. So selection tool, click on the photo, object, create object mosaic, right? It's going to ask me how many tiles. I explained to you the more tiles, the better. I'm going to put 10 by 10. That's 10 by 10. 10 times 10 is 100 squares. So if I say OK, it divides your picture up into 100 different squares and takes all the colors, all the pixels in that square and kind of blends them together. And this is your average color. So if you don't see the color that you're looking for, let's say you wanted a super bright yellow and you're not seeing a super bright yellow, you can always change the number of squares here, maybe 15 by 15. Anyway, this is a huge number of squares for me to clean up when I'm done. But then right here, I got a little brighter yellow. So what I want you to do with this, so when you do this here for your final project, project 1, I want you on the last page where your photographs are, your front and back of your top, bottom, and one piece. Go ahead and put your photo and the mosaic over here. Make it super tiny, just so I know that you did the exercise, okay? And so here's how we do that exercise. So how do I get these swatches over here into my swatch panel? It's pretty easy. Let me show you how to do this. So these are all selected here, right? That's why it's all highlighted. And if I were to press this folder button, new color group, you have choices from either selected swatches or selected artwork. This is my selected artwork. I'll say OK. And then here's my 15 by 15 number of squares. It's plenty, right? This is all still selected. So notice how this is all still selected. If I were to pick one of these colors, everything would turn into that color. So I want to make sure this is deselected. So I'm going to click outside my artwork to deselect that. And from here, I need to pick 5 colors. So there's all different kinds of ways to do this, 15 different ways. I'm going to show you one way. I'm just going to pull, since I have all these swatches right here, I'm going to select 5. So I'll hold my control key down. It's a command key if you have a Mac. And while I'm holding that key down, I'm going to click on 5 of these colors. I'm going to select 5. The command or control key allows you to select more than one item. So I've got a brown here, I've got a light green, I've got a light blue.
I have a question. Are we
I've got,
doing this on the photo that you provided or our photo?
do it for this photo as practice, and then you'll do it on your own photo. And I'm going to choose a pink here. So I have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I have 5 selected, I'm going to press this folder, and it says from selected swatches, create this. We'll call this, or we call it ocean or something. And then you see, there are my 5 colors right here. I could create a new, let's see. So once I have those, I can delete these. Whoops. All right, delete this folder right here. See how this is selected too? I got to deselect here. All right, now just this one's selected. Hit the trash can. Delete all those? Yeah, no problem. Here are my 5. Right, so I'm going to go over here to these boxes, and I don't think they have fills, so I have to click on the edge because there's nothing here to click on in the middle. Oops. So click on the edge here, click on the first color, right? Click on the edge, click on the second color, click on the edge, click on the third color, etc. Right? And that's how we get our 5 colors. Now we need the Pantone codes. So I'm going to show you like a 7-step procedure to get the Pantone color codes. If you're in visuals, you may have already had this, but sometimes you have to do this procedure twice, just because. I have no idea why. But here, I'm going to show it to you. Here are the steps. First thing you want to do is you look down here, you see no color wheel, right? So I need to get that color wheel to appear. To do that, I'm going to click on the folder that contains my 5 swatches. And if you hover your mouse over your swatches, you'll see the recipe of red, green, and blue, RGB. You know, 159 points of red versus, you know, out of 225 maximum, I think, is the intensity. And I need this to say Pantone and not RGB. So I see no color wheel down here, but if I click on the folder, a color wheel appears and all my swatches are highlighted. So I'm going to click on this color wheel, and from here I'm going to look for my swatch panel. It's right here, and I'm going to click on that. So here, let me start over. Step 1, click on the folder. Step 2, click on the color wheel. Step 3, click on the swatch panel. Step 4, go to color books and select CMYK uncoded. Let's try that one. Then we're going to hit OK, and it's going to ask, do you want to save the questions or save the swatches, the changes? Say yes. Now we see little white triangles, and sometimes you see the Pantone codes. In this case, I do. If it still says RGB, do it again. To do it a second time, you click on the folder once. So first step, click on the folder. Second step, click on the color wheel. Third step, click on the swatch panel. Fourth step, color books, CMYK uncoded. Then you click OK. Then you click Save Yes. And then, oh, I did it twice. So now I have 2 sets of folders, which is fine. For my second folder set, I'm going to take these colors and I'm going to move them around in different order. You don't need to do this, but I'm just going to show you. This is a very fast way to create a color story. So I have 2 folders. These have the same 5 colors. They're just in different orders, right? So I'm going to go back to this first folder here, and I'm going to look. The Pantone code for this brown is P3914U. So I'm going to go in and type in here. I'll grab my type tool here, and we'll delete that number sign and go P39 dash. So it's Pantone 39 P3914U. So P39-14U. That's it. Do that for each one of these. So this green one, this mustard, ochre or something, P16414U. So P164 dash, what was it? 14U. And et cetera, right? P1265 dash U. (100-6-U). P100-6-. And the last one, 93-6-U. All right. So there are my Pantone colors. So this first page is done. And that's how you find your colors for your project. So if you look at your project here, do I have a picture? So let's say my photograph was like a sunset or something, right? So if I went to, and I want to find a photograph that's not monochromatic, a lot of sunsets are just kind of orange and yellow. Here's a nice picture of many different colors. And if I put that photo here, it's way big. Let's zoom this down here. Hold my shift key down. And yeah, there's my photo. We'll go Object, Create Object Mosaic. I'm just going to do 10 by 10. I don't think I'm going to have as hard a time with this one, right? And I can just make a new new color group from my selected swatches. There's my 100. Once I have that, I can take this group, you know, we'll shrink this down and move it out of the way. I just need to see evidence that you did it, is all. All right, so here's my 100 colors. I need only 5 of them, so I'm going to hold my Control key down or Command key and click on 5.
Can you explain again how to get the mosaic? Like what to press to find it?
Sure. First step, Selection tool. Second step, click on the photo. Third step, Object dropdown. Fourth step, Create Object Mosaic. Right? Over here, number of tiles. 10 by 10 is good. Hit OK. And then it creates this mosaic. From this mosaic, I hit the folder button, and I can create it from selected artwork. Then it created a folder with 100 swatches. So now I'm going to create a new folder with 5 colors from here. So I'm going to take my Control key, or my Command key if you have a Mac, hold it down, I'm going to find 5 colors, right? So here are my 5 favorites, and then I'll say new folder, and it says from selected swatches here. I've got 5 selected, say OK. There's my 5. Now I need to find the Pantone color code, so step 1, click on the folder. Step 2, click on the color wheel. Step 3, click on the swatch panel. Step 4, color books. Step 5, CMYK uncoded. Step 6, click OK. Oops, let me try that again. Color books, Pantone uncoded, right? Click OK. Yeah, that's not working. Of course, now it's not working. Is it because I already did it? Let's see. Color books, CMYK uncoded. And I'm getting an error. Let's see. Make sure nothing weird is selected. I'm going to click on empty space here. This says CMYK here instead of RGB. That's interesting. Let's see. Color group, color story, color books. I wonder if this photo is not. All right, Pantone CMYK uncoded. Save changes. So, you know, I had to do that, what, 3 times to get this to work? You know, it's always been kind of glitchy. So here, now I have them, right? I don't know what the deal was with that. But I've usually had to do it twice. This is the first time I've had to do it 3 or 4 times, but sometimes you just got to keep doing it. So I'm going to fill in my color story here with my colors. Four, 5, and then we got to put in some interesting titles for our color. So we don't call it red, you'll call it crimson or something like that. I don't know why. I'm going to put a black fill on this one and no outline. How's that? I've got to select it first. Right, black fill, no outline. And you're going to want to experiment. Like if you have a dark color, maybe you need a brighter colored letters. So, you know, just make sure the colors complement each other. Make sure the color names are descriptive. I mean, like are creative. Hold my shift key when resizing. All right, so apparently I have these words here. All right, so you want to get these to line up too. If you want to get the words to line up perfectly, you can, there's all different kinds of things. You know, you can go to view and you can use your grid and turn on snap to grid. But if you turn snap to grid on, you have to turn that off. Otherwise it makes drawing very difficult. So I don't use snap to grid. I use guides, and you can bring up your guide ruler by just hitting Control R or Command R if you have a Mac. Once you have that, if you click inside the ruler, you can get a guide down here. And you can put a line down where you want all your color titles to appear, where you want all your Pantone codes to appear. You know, so here I have one word here. If I paste this over here, I have a light colored background with light colored font. That's not going to work. So I'm going to change this. Oops. I'm going to change these colors to a black. You know, oops. Oh, there's another word. Change that to black. And of course, it's not crimson. This is like something. Yeah. Show me your creativity with your name titles. Here, this is the Pantone code. So this was like P134-1-C. And yeah, I don't know how that got black outline. Or, you know, some interesting color choices here. So it'll look something like this, right? Of course, I'm not bothering to put in the correct titles here.
I have a quick question while you're doing your titles.
Go ahead.
I'm kind of jumping ahead, but for the pattern that we make for our clothing for the final project, can we make our own little pattern, or do we?
Yeah.
We can.
You're supposed to.
Okay, because during lecture yesterday I was confused. I thought the project you gave us of getting 10 photos was for our project.
If you thought the what 10 photos?
The classwork that's for next week, I was mistaken, and I thought that was for the project that was due tonight. Like, I thought you wanted us to get photos off the internet and then make a pattern for our project.
Yeah, we will be doing that. So you're just ahead. We're doing that today. Oh, except we're using WGSN and not any old photo. But in the future, you can use any old photo. We're going to be
Well-
doing this again.
So for the project one that we're turning in tonight by 11:59, we make our own pattern, but
Those are your own patterns. So if you use your own artwork, your own photographs, that's fine.
okay.
Yeah.
Do we only have to have one pattern?
Within our flats, you're going to have a front and back, right?
Yes, sir.
These will only be in one pattern. But, you know, and you have like basically 10 different patterns to choose from. It's actually 5 patterns, and the other 5 are the exact same patterns, just in different colors. So you have a choice of any one of these 10 swatches to fill. Of course, front and back will be the same pattern, but between the top and bottom, you know, you can choose a different pattern if you want.
Okay, because for
And I'll get there when I get there.
okay, I'm just really confused on the pattern portion of the project one.
Yeah,
We're being-
of course you're confused because I haven't talked about it yet.
Okay.
So yeah, when I talk about it, I'm sure it'll get sure. So again, make sure I can read your text here. If it's like a dark colored, I do take off points. If you have a dark text over a dark swatch and I have trouble reading the text, if I can't read it, I take off a point. So there's 15 squares here. There's a potential of 15 points off if you all use the wrong color, like if I can't read any of your text. So make sure I can read it, make sure they're lined up, make sure you have titles on each of the swatches, make sure you have the Pantone codes on each of them, right? And then once you have all your, okay, I'll get there. Once we have our patterns in, then we can just copy and paste this over. But let me get there. Let me get to the patterns here. All right, so I'm going to go a little bit out of order. So there is something called image trace in Illustrator, and this is something that most graphic designers or a lot of people out there doing side hustles, making t-shirts or whatever, they only know how to use this one tool in Illustrator. It's this one tool that's very useful, and once you know how to use it, you know, you could just quit. And if you found a great t-shirt design that's making bank, you know, there you're done. But let me show you how to do that. And you can use this for any drawing that you have, either with a vector line drawing like you do in Illustrator, or if you have like a pencil drawing in the binder, like let's say you're looking at some of your old notes, or let's say you doodle a lot and you want to turn that artwork into vector artwork that can be scaled or ready for manufacture. This is how they do it, right? They use something called image trace. And so we have different examples here. The most common example, let's start with this vector drawn flat here, right? And in order to give this fill, what I told you to do last week was you draw one layer that's going all around the edge, like the silhouette. We keep that layer separate, and then we change the fill of that layer, and that's how we change the whole color of the flat, right? We all got that down. There is another way to do this. It's called live paint. Now the problem with live paint is, look how clean my lines are, this outline here. We have nice little stitches. When you use live paint, a lot of your specialty lines, like the stitch line or tapered fold lines or something, those will disappear when you use live paint. That's why I told you to keep all your details grouped on a separate layer, different from your outline layer. All right. Let me turn off someone's. I can hear someone's mic here. All right. So once I have, so let me show you what happens if you draw it. Like the other way to do color is without doing layers, and it gets kind of messy, but let me show you how to do this. So first step, I'm going to take my selection tool and select my vector artwork. And you can see it's vector because I have my regular transformation handles. They look like little empty squares. I'm going to go to Object, Live Paint Make, right? And then you see my object turned into, my transformation handles turned into these little snowflakes inside these little squares here. All right. And what happened is, you see my outline kind of got messed up when I do this live paint or live paint tool. So that's why I have everything on different layers if you're going to do this live paint method. Now to fill this with color, over here under your shape builder tool, it looks like a snowman that kind of fell over, or a ladybug or something. If you click and hold that icon, you'll see an option for something called a live paint bucket. Now if I go to my swatch panel right here, and I say click on the yellow color, I see red on the left and green on the right in my swatch panel. Here's my paint bucket. I have the yellow swatch selected, so the yellow one's in the middle here, with the green on the right and the red on the left. And in my swatch panel, I can use my arrow keys on my keyboard to cycle through my colors. And you'll see the colors will change with my paint bucket tool. So if I wanted to give this some color, and you can see what happens is it allows you to color in every place there's a closed shape. So this lightning bolt shape right here, you see I have my neckline. You can't even, the neckline is underneath this outer layer. You can't even see it if you click it, but that line is there. But once I created my live paint object, and I try to give that color, it only goes like this far. I have to go back and color in that extra shape. Plus all these little shapes in between my stitches. You know, it can get quite tedious. So what I want you to do here for this exercise is turn this into a live paint object and then fill in every single square here with a different color. I know it looks crazy. It's kind of Betsy Johnson-ish, but you know, just humor me. Just show me you know how to use this live paint bucket tool. And your exercise will look something like this. Now, I don't like using the live paint bucket for flats because, like I said before, your specialty lines will vanish. Of course, you can get around all this simply by making all of these details, the detail layer, you can make that vanish and just make it invisible with your layer panel. And then you can just use the paint bucket to color the outside. But you know, if you're going to do it like that, you don't even need to use the live paint object. But let me show you some other areas where it's more useful. So this example right here is somebody traced out their croquis wearing clothing. They drew their clothing on the croquis, and then they inked it with like a ultra fine Sharpie pen. And that's the ideal way to do this. And so somebody hand traced this, inked it, and then they took a picture of it with their phone, brought the photo here into Illustrator. Let me show you how quickly you can add color to this. You grab your selection tool, first of all, you click on the photo, and then you click on this image trace button that appears after you've clicked on a photo. Once you hit the image trace, it turns it all into, it starts trying to find the borders, the edges of your drawing. It's not quite picking up everything, so we can adjust the sensitivity with a slider called threshold. So what happens is after you hit image trace, this little button appears. It looks kind of like a jar of peanut butter or an ingredient label or something. Calendar, I don't know, whatever. Click on this button here. This is called the image trace panel. And here you have lots of presets, and I do encourage you to experiment with this with like high fidelity photos or 16 colors. If you did 3 colors, you can get that Obama poster that was so popular. All somebody did was take a photograph and run it through image trace with this option here. Made a ton of money. All right, this is still black and white here. I'm going to leave it on black and white, but here's my threshold value. You see my shapes aren't really closed here, so I'm going to make my lines a little thicker by sliding this to the right, and I'm almost there. I'm going to get, the problem when you slide it to the right is your lines get thicker, which if you don't have it inked, your lines will get quite thick. Once I have that adjusted and I see all my shapes are closed, I can hit this expand button, and you see right here it says if you turn this into a vector drawing, you're going to have 1,908 anchors. So you remember with the pen tool, we're going click, click, making little anchors. Almost 2,000 anchors for these 2 croquis here. So I'm going to hit the expand button, and now what I've done here, if I click on my direct select tool, you can see all the anchors that went into creating this drawing. So it takes your drawing here and turns it into vector lines, right? Now this picture here, now you can scale it to any size. The lines will always be smooth. And if I take it a step further and take this and turn it into a live paint object, so we go Object, Live Paint, Make, and then we see those little snowflakes here in the transformation handles. Now if I grab my paint bucket tool, I can start giving this color, right? And coloring this in. And then you can kind of see the progress here. So paint bucket, here's some skin color. If you don't like any of these skin colors, there is a paint library down here. It looks like a stack of books, and you can go over here to skin tones, and then we have just about every human skin tone there is, if you want to choose those. I'm just going to stick with this default mocha here, and then you can see how quickly it goes if you have live paint dialed in. Right, it's still looking a little flat. Maybe, yeah, this is a very 80s look here. All right, so let's see what I got. All right, so it's still very flat. Let's say you wanted to add a little bit of volume to your drawing, like for your flesh tone here. So if I were to pick a gradient in my paint bucket, right, like I have a little gradient tool here. Here's black and white. So if I were to click on black and white for, let's say, their legs, right, you start seeing a little bit of this kind of 80s volume here when you do a gradient. Now to change the gradient color, all you got to do is go over to your gradient tool right here, and you click it, and here's the gradient I have selected. If you want to add color, you just click on the gradient slider here, and you can double click on these crayons here to choose any color. Let's say I want to have a flesh color, flesh to white, right? That's now my gradient of choice here. So now if I click on my body, I'll start getting this little kind of a subtle gradient here. If you wanted to change how much brown there is versus how much white there is, you can grab this gradient slider. If you want to move this around here, you can move that. You can also just grab your gradient tool here, and you can click it, and you can start moving this gradient around. Let me see if I can select it. Oh, this is live paint, so it becomes a little bit squirrely here. Up to you. We'll talk about that more next week. So if I wanted to make this blue dress have a gradient, you know, here's a, ooh, that ain't good. So what happened was this whole thing was selected, so let me deselect that, grab my paint bucket tool, you know, add a little bit right there. Let's say you get, like, remember this black and white gradient that I changed to that skin color gradient? Where was it? Was it here? Here's the black and white gradient, right, that I originally colored the legs with. And so if I go to my gradient tool, let's see, gradient, and I select this gradient here, right? That's what I used for this tool. I change this to like a brown or something. Now I have a little gradient swatch right here. I can take that swatch and I can drop it into my swatch panel. And that way I'll always have this swatch in the future. So I already worked hard to do that. So let me use that swatch to color in the rest of her body. That's just an option. I would like to see some volume on the clothing. You can do that either with the gradient tool or with the pen tool. And I'll show you how to do that next week. For this week, I just want you to color in. I just don't want to see any white spaces. You don't worry about the shading right now. I mean the gradient shade, the gradient colors. But I do want you to color in this white spaces here for your garment. Get rid of some brown shoes. Everything's selected, so that's why it's kind of hard to look at. If I deselect this, it's much easier. And it shows you with a red outline what's going to be filled. Like if I were to click out here, the whole background would be filled. It's not what I want. Just want to make sure you don't see any white space on the drawing. And we're done with that. Now, if you just draw your croquis with a pencil tool, look what happens here. This is with pencil, like you have a pencil drawing. I'm going to select it. We'll go image trace, right? I can barely see it, so I'm going to open my image trace panel right here, and I'll bring my slider up on my threshold here. We'll make these lines darker. Now, because it wasn't inked, look how far I have to take my slider just to get some lines. Now, some people like this. It looks somewhat interesting, but maybe you didn't want to have it look so rough as a sketch. But you got to do what you got to do to get these shapes closed. Now, to turn this into, so I have a potential here of almost 7,000 anchors right here. So I'm going to hit the expand button. Depending on the strength of your computer, it may take a while. So you can see all my anchors there. Direct select tool, look at that. Tons of anchors here. All right, so, but again, this is ready for production. It's all finished. Now let's go to turn this into a live paint object. Object, live paint make. And did it work? Yeah, selection tool. I see little snowflakes here. And then you can go grab your paint bucket right here and start filling it with some color. Hopefully all these shapes are closed. So the secret is to adjust the threshold to a level where you can have the shapes that are all be closed off. And I'd like you to fill in all of this, any color you want. Now I'm going to show you a little problem here. I have a little problem, right? The arm here is turning red when it shouldn't be red. How do I close off some of this? I wouldn't worry about it but I'm going to show you in a second how to fix that. But just get it as close as you can. Fill in all the color here. You see, I accidentally touched the black outline with the brown color, so now everything turned brown. To bring that back, you just take your black color and touch that black outline again, right? So get as close as you can to adding color to all these shapes here. And it gets kind of tedious if you have tons of lines. This is another reason why I don't use live paint too much. But in some cases it works wonders. All right. So as you see, I had little problems here with her arm turning red. It's kind of sloppy over here. Let me show you how you can edit these lines to add some color. All right. So this is another pencil traced croquis that was inked very well, but they didn't ink it perfectly. There's a little bit of a gap right here or a gap right here where the lines are not closed. Let me show you what happens when we do that. I'm going to click on this first photo. We'll hit image trace threshold to get the lines thicker. And this is why we do the faces separate. You remember how I showed you we're going to have these close-up faces? So usually people will need to draw in separate faces because once we crank our threshold number up, because not everybody inks it, almost actually almost nobody inks it. They always skip that step. So they end up making the lines really dark. And when you do that, all the details in your eyes and nose just get squished. You can't see them anymore. So people end up deleting the face and then drawing in a new one and shrinking it down and putting it in here. So anyway, here we go. Selection tool, click on the photo, image trace, right? Adjust the threshold to nice and dark, clean lines. Hit the expand button to turn this all into anchors, right? Once this is all expanded, I can take my paint bucket tool and start adding color. Oh, I got a live paint object. Here we go. Let's grab this object. We'll go Object, Live Paint, Make. We see the little snowflakes here. Now I'm going to grab my paint bucket and I can start adding some color here. Now watch what happens right here when I click on the leg. Right? Click on the leg here. It fills in this whole space right here. So I'm going to hit Control Z because if you look here, there's a space that's open. So all we got to do is close the space to fix this. So if I grab my direct select tool and I look for any old anchor right here, you click on the anchor, you could drag it down on top of the line. And sometimes that works. That'll fix it, right? With a more interesting space, sometimes you could use your pen tool or even your pencil tool, which is under this shaper tool. There is a pencil tool, which is it's like a free drawing pen tool. Make sure you're drawing with black ink up here, and then no fill. And then you could just take your pencil and draw a tumor foot. This model has a tumor on her foot. And then if you go and try to give this color now, watch what happens. Nothing. It still colors in that area. This new pen line is not a live paint object. It's not merged with this live paint object. So to merge that, I'm going to take my selection tool and I'm going to grab my new line and my my original drawing here. I'm going to grab just everything, including that new line I drew, and we'll go Object, Live Paint, and you just make it again. You can merge it if you want, but just to be safe, I'll do Make again. And now when I click on my leg, you see it's no longer spilling into this empty space. In fact, here's my tumor foot right here. It's not okay, she's wearing stockings and then it got snagged on, the door jamb or the cat. Now look at that. Stocking's ruined. All right, so go ahead and fill in the rest of these. Probably should have made that more neutral color here. And then maybe some darker colors for the background arm. Make it look like it's in shadow. Lipstick should have been red. All right, so that's all we got to do for that. Again, if you wanted to add a gradient, remember that gradient tool that we saved over here? Now, this is interesting. Look what happened with this space between her elbow and her waist. There's like a little bit of shading happening because that is indeed also a shape. So if I were to take like a photograph here and stick it behind my models, like let's say you wanted to have your croquis displayed in front of something, we have this problem. We have this white space. To get rid of this white space, this is just another shape. It's a rectangle shape with 4 anchors, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to grab my direct select tool and I'll find that one anchor and I'll hit delete. And then that background goes away. Over here, same thing. This anchor, delete. This line right here, delete. Right? That line right there, delete that. This line, delete that. But what about these little spaces in between her arms? You just take your paint bucket tool from Live Paint Bucket, and then you choose over here in your colors, you choose no color. And watch what happens here. Boom, boom. Now I'm just showing this in the future for when you do your croquis. That's how to get around that. But for this homework here, all we have to do is color it in. Make sure the foot is sealed up, either with the anchor tool or drawing it with your pen tool. Right, so that's how we do those croquis. Right, so either you're going to, next week I'll do a demo of actually taking a photograph and tracing with the pen tool to create a clean pen tool croquis. And but if you want to draw it yourself, like if you have enough skill to do something like this, go ahead and start drawing on white paper. Start drawing a croquis wearing clothing and have that ready for next week. All right, so let's talk about patterns now. All right, so this pattern, some of you may recognize, this plain old plaid pattern here. Workspace reset. This I just made with like 5 lines, right? This is all grouped here. If I were to ungroup this, I'll show it to you. I have a red line. I think it's still grouped. So I have this red line here, and I just copy and pasted it 3 times, 1, 2, 3. This black line right here, I copy and pasted it like 6 times. Then I put like a tan rectangle, 2 tan rectangles and a white rectangle, and that was it. So I got this pattern. So we have a second pattern here, and we want to change the colors. So this is like for our colorway. So for our project one, we're going to put one pattern here, and then we're going to change the colors. So let me show you how to do that. There's several different ways to do this. The easiest way to do this is just here. I'm going to make sure this is grouped again. Is I'm going to grab all the colors out of here, right? So I'm going to select this pattern right here. This is all vector line drawings. This won't work if you grab a JPEG, but I drew this in Illustrator. So if I select it here and I look at my my swatch panel, if I make a new color group from my selected artwork, so these are the colors that were involved in making that Burberry pattern, right? And then I want to change the colors. So I can select on this pattern right here and go click on this color wheel right here. Once you click on a pattern, the color wheel will appear. And the easiest way to do this is just to grab this little color wheel and just crank it to a different area. And you can change the colors very easily. You can change in any one individual color, or you can change them all and having them move in a range that's proportional to the color shift. If you wanted to change individual colors, you could unlock this little padlock and move this around and say, I want that color over here or over there. It looks horrible, right? Something like that. So just change that up. If you want to go, if you want more options here, you can go into this advanced options, and you can go into YouTube and type in recolor artwork. There's lots of great tutorials there. But you'll see like these are the color stories that I made earlier from those other pictures, right? If I wanted to change this pattern, I can just click on any one of these color stories and it will change my colors. I can go over here and I can drag colors around and change the order or how I want my colors to be. There's so many different ways to do this. But anyway, change your second pattern color, preferably to something from your same color story. Again, remember how I have these 2 folders with the same colors in different orders? That's where this kind of thing comes in handy. You could just click on one color or another color, and it's going to keep your same color story, but just change your colors. And that's a very fast way to complete that part of the assignment. So over here again, I'm going to click on this. This is another vector pattern. So I'll click on, I have it selected, my artwork, and then I can say new color story from selected artwork. And these are all the colors that are in here. And then when I click on this second pattern, I just go to my color wheel, and I can just rotate this. Oops, and then we have a different pattern. And that's all you need to do, right, for our colorway. So let me show you how to make some patterns here.
My swatch panel is gone. How do I get it back?
So if something disappears, you go to Window, Workspace, Reset Essentials Classic, or you can go down here and just go to Layers or Swatches. These are all the properties and attributes that you can select manually. But if you want to reset everything, Workspace, Reset Essentials Classic. All right, now over here we're going to do block, half drop, and repeat. So I need to grab 3 motifs here, and to make a pattern. I put this pattern here because some of you may think this is familiar, but let me show you, how easy it was. See this LV here? This LV is New Times Roman. New Times Roman is the first font in the dropdown, right? It doesn't get more, I don't want to say lazy, but like it's the first one. It's the basic one. No creativity, and it's in italics. The L is in italics. Okay, that's special. Like that's worth $5,000. All right, New Times Roman, and then we have some shapes here with the pen tool. You draw like 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a circle. Not too complicated a pattern. Somebody was like, Giuseppe, do you have your pattern yet for our purses? Oh yeah, of course I've got it. Then they go, let me go take lunch first. They go on lunch. It takes 15 minutes. They make this, and now, a loved one comes home with a purse that costs $5,000. What? This costs $5,000? Okay, enough ranting. Here we go. Let's do block repeat. I'm gonna first put down just a basic color right here, and you can choose a color from your color story if you want, right? And then I'm gonna grab like 3 motifs. So here's my houndstooth one. I'll grab this one. That's one of them. You're gonna copy and paste it. Don't grab it. Just do a copy and paste. And I gotta put it on top. Let's send this to the back. Arrange, send to the back. All right. So here's my shape here, and we can make this as big as we want. We can move it around. We can change the color if we want. Let's change it to something within our color story that's appropriate. And do I want a black outline? I don't know. Let's take the outline off. All right, there's one. Here's, whoops. I'm gonna copy and paste this. Copy. Shift key. We'll put in 3 motifs. All right, so this one I wanted to show you how easy this pattern is to draw. The pen tool, hold your shift key down, you can draw in 45. You can draw in 45-degree increments, either horizontally perfectly or 90 degrees or 45. So if I click right here, holding my shift key down, it automatically makes this straight line in a 45-degree angle both directions. Look how quickly I can do this perfect shape here. And there is one. I'm going to copy and paste this one, and we'll rotate this. Again, I'll hold my shift key down to get it to rotate in 45-degree increments, and I can grab both these. I can group it. And now I've got like this little shape right here. Let's copy and paste this. Change the color to something better. We'll change the size. I can rotate this one too. Anyway, don't judge me. All right, so I'm going to resize this background color to make it kind of fit. All right, once I have my gorgeous pattern here, I'm going to make my own purse. Yeah, let's call this the FLV purse, feline leukemia. Okay, anyway, here we go. So here I have my pattern here. I want to turn this into I have my motifs here. I'm going to turn this into a pattern. This is a big swatch with 3 motifs. So I'm going to get my selection tool. I'm going to drag it over this whole area so that everything is selected. And I'm going to go Object, Pattern, Make. Okay? And it says, hey, we added a new pattern to your swatch panel. Okay, you can kind of see it right there, new pattern. I don't want it to say new pattern. We'll call this FLV1, right? because we're going to make 2 different colors. And then here my drop down says grid, that's block. Brick by column is half drop, hex is the one we'll do later. So I'm going to keep it on grid here and hit done, right? So once I hit done here, this is still my little swatch and motifs. Here's my pattern swatch. So I need to move this out of the way. So I'm going to grab all of these together and I'm going to hold my shift key down and I'm going to shrink it, kind of show my swatch right there. I'll take some text here and I'll type out block. This one's going to be my block pattern. And then I'm going to draw a big rectangle right here. And I'm going to fill it with my new swatch, FLV, right? Now, I need to see my motifs repeating at least 3 times horizontally or vertically. I can only see this once or twice here, so I need to shrink this down. So to bring out the pattern editor, all we got to do is double click on this swatch right here. It brings us back. This is a preview. This blue square right here, this is my area of repeat. Okay, so if I were to grab any one of these elements, you can see the whole pattern changes on the fly to kind of help you visualize visualize what changes you want to make to your pattern, right? So once I have, and you can change the colors too. Let's say this mustard is not working for me. You want to change it to like a teal. That's fine, right? So I need to resize this. So I'm gonna, everything outside this blue box doesn't exist. This is all just pre-visualization of what your pattern will look like. This blue box is your actual background color and motifs, right? So I'm gonna take my selection tool and I'm gonna grab all of these areas. I don't have to worry about grabbing up here because there's nothing up here to grab. We'll grab that and I'm gonna make this smaller. I'm gonna hold my shift key down and make this smaller. Now you see inside this blue area of repeat, I have this white space because I shrunk it and it's repeating that white space, right? And I want this white space to be gone. So I'm gonna go over here where it says size tile to art and I'm gonna click it. And when I do that, it resizes my artwork to my tile. Now, if you have size tile to art, be careful because if one of your elements goes outside of your background color, you might create like a little white grid line here because it's sizing your tile to the artwork and your artwork is sticking past your background color. So to fix that, you can grab your element here and put it back in the center of your background color, or you could grab your background and just kind of edge it out a little bit wide past that blue rectangle, and then it gets rid of that white grid, right? Hit done here. Now I'm going to look at this and I see 1, 2, 3 motifs, 1, 2, 3 motifs. That's good. You need to see the motifs repeating 3 times. So let me show you my half drop here. All right, let me show you how to resize this again. So here's my project here. Let's put my first pattern here, the one I just drew. I don't see that FLV pattern over here in my project. So I'm going to go back to my homework. I'm going to take this square that has this pattern in it, and I'm going to hit copy, and I'll go to my project and hit paste. And once I do that, that pattern will suddenly appear in my swatch panel. So once I have that, I don't need this anymore. I can delete that. And I can grab this square right here, and I can select it and fill it with my new pattern. Of course, I need to see the motif repeating 3 times. It's quite large because my swatch is so small. So to resize this, again, double click on the swatch. This blue rectangle is the area of repeat. I'm going to grab my selection tool. I'm going to grab everything, and I'm going to hold my shift key down, and I'm going to shrink it down. Now I have size tile to art on this time, so we're not seeing that white space. I'll hit done here. 1, 2, 3, almost. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Grab everything again. Go down. Hit done. There, 1, 2, 3. Right? There's my my first pattern. Now for your project one, you're not going to use these homework patterns. All right, these homework patterns for project one, try to use your own. Draw your own in here. But let me just show you. So here I have my one pattern here. I need to make my color story, right? So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to open the editor and we're going to make a copy. We'll make a second one for our color story, right? So we'll call this FLV2. And it says, hey, we added the second swatch. These are identical to each other. FLV1, FLV2, right? Hit done here. Now for this second square, I'm going to click on the second pattern. So now when this is FLV2. Now I want to change this color, so I'm going to go grab this color wheel, and just like I showed you before, we want our same color story. So I'm going to go over here. What's this? Saturations, randomly? No. Let's go to my advanced options. Here I have different color stories here. Oh, I don't have my color story, do I? Let's bring our color story in to our project. So for some reason, I'm going to grab oh no, I did. This is my color story. I made this earlier, right, from that sunset. Okay, it was my sunset. So let's go over here, click on the swatch, click on the color wheel, go to advanced options, and then click on a different color group that I made, right? So now I have the same. Now, if you look at my swatch panel, you see it's a different color. FLV2, whoops, FLV2, FLV2. That's interesting. I don't need this one. So I have my FLV1, which is here. And then for this one, I need FLV2. And there I have my same pattern with a different color story. And that's all you need to do for your color story. And then you're going to, of course, have to change your pattern title. We'll call this one Fenfire. Make that black and like this. All right, so you'll have your patterns will have a title. That's how we're going to do that. And you can use the same 3 patterns you make for your homework, not the in-class work. This is the in-class work. Don't use these patterns. But for your homework assignment, you can intentionally design homework patterns that will fit into your project 1 theme, and then use those 3 patterns for your homework here on your project, and then you only have to do 2 more to finish your project. And then you'll be done with your homework and your project at the same time. It used to be we had to do all original stuff, but why not? Why not use the same one? So let me show you how to make our half drop. Again, I'm going to draw a rectangle here, and I'm going to choose a background color from one of my color stories. And when you do your homework, you'll have 10 motifs to choose from. But over here, I've just supplied you with a few motifs already. So I'm going to grab copy and paste. Again, I got to put this background color in the background. All right, so we have one. We have 2. Not that one. Oh my God. All right. And then we need a third one. Oh, there's 3 here. Okay, so now I need to make a half drop, right? So I'm going to grab all these right here, and I'm going to say object, pattern, make. And it says we've added your new pattern to your swatch panel. There it is. Say OK. It's giving me a preview here with a little bit of white space on top. I'm going to say, we'll call this love 1. And let's try to figure out why this white space is there. So here, let me take all of these shapes here and we'll shrink it down. We'll take this word over here and we'll copy and paste. We'll just change this to half drop. And then we're going to draw a big rectangle and we're going to fill it with our new pattern. And right now this is like a really bad block pattern, so let's go in and edit it and figure out what's wrong with it. We'll double click it. And first of all, we need to make this half drop, so we'll go brick by column. That will shift everything. And then I don't have size tiled art on, so let me turn that on. See if that changes anything. And it doesn't. So why is there a white space? Let's check it out. So I'm going to grab my selection tool and see if I can isolate this background color. This background oh, this text has some white color behind it. So let me grab this background color here. And I'm going to move this background color, make it whiter. Now so there is some white space behind this lettering that's creating a problem here. All right, so it's completely covering this one. All right, let me move that out of the way. These are not working very well. All right, so here's my blue area of repeat. Here's my swatch, here's my thing. 1, 2, it's still a little bit big, so let's shrink all this down. And here's my half drop. Now what was happening earlier was apparently these letters, for some reason, have a bunch of white space on top and bottom, which is causing that issue. We could always just retype it. I could just delete that and grab my text tool. Be there. Oh, that has white space too. Who knew? I didn't know that. Learn something new every day, folks. So text has some white space around it. Hit done. All right, so now I've got this scaled properly. Again, I could take this and I'm doing it for this in-class work as a demo. When you do your actual homework for your patterns, you can do the same thing. Of course, these will be your own patterns that you make. All right, and I don't see my LV pattern here, so I'm going to paste in that square. There's my LV pattern. So once I do that, I can delete that square. Let's fill it with my LV pattern. It's way too big, so I'll double click this and I'll grab everything again and I'll hold the shift key down and we'll shrink it way down. Hit done. 1, 2, 3. That looks good. So now I need to fill this one with a second pattern. So let's take this pattern, double click it again. We'll hit save a copy. We'll call this one LOV2. Right? It says we added it to your swatch panel. Hit done over here. So I'll grab this second square, click on my LOV2 pattern, and then I'm going to change the color. So I'll double click it. And I'm sorry, not double click. we'll just click it and then click on the color wheel. And I'm going to go find a different color story, right? Boom. Hit OK. It's the same pattern. And then, of course, you can go in here, and if you open the pattern editor, you can grab any one of these elements and change it to any color that you want. You don't have to choose those colors. I'm just saying that, that color wheel is a very fast way to make those changes within your color story, of course. Right? All right, so there's that. Hit done. There's my block, my half drop, and let's try the hex one. All right, so I'm going to take this text here.
I have a question real quick.
Sure. Go ahead.
When I try and move the rectangle that has my pattern in it, the pattern doesn't like lock in the shape. It just like the shape moves around and the pattern doesn't move. I think I missed when you showed how to like lock it in there.
No, it does that. So let me show you. So when I move these around here, this is a SWAT. This is like a group that I grouped together. That's why it's all moving together. But once you have a pattern filled, you see that? Oh wait, that's not it. Okay, so when I move my box around, my pattern is moving with it, but yours is not, right? There is a recipe over here. If you have a Mac, you're going to go and click on your icon and go to your preferences. For PC users, it's under Edit, under Preferences, and then General. And then right here, this option, Transform Pattern Tiles. If you have it selected, the pattern will move with your box. If you deselect it and hit OK, now when I move my box, my pattern is locked in there. It doesn't move. So sometimes, you want to move your box around. You're like, I don't like it framed like this. I like it framed like that. Then you go up here to your preferences, general, transform pattern tiles. You can lock it in, and then now it moves with your box. I have mine set by default. I set mine to always have this on, but I think by default it's not on for many people. You can turn it on here if you want. Again, preferences, general, transform pattern tiles. For Mac users, you access your preferences through, I think it's your Illustrator icon. All right, let's do the hex. So for the hex one's a little different. Instead of drawing a box here, I'm actually going to draw a hexagon here. And you can see it's all roly-poly, so I'm going to hold my Shift key down to make sure the top and bottom lock in place. And I'll get a nice, healthy size here for my pattern. And then my background color should be something from my color story here. And then I'm going to grab 3 motifs. I have any left? Here's one. Let's move this shape to the back, arrange, send to the back. There's one shape, let's make that bigger. Let's bring that to the front. And then we'll grab maybe my Fendi Fs. And then I should have made more images here. Am I out? I think I'm out. Let's just grab a letter. And we'll bring that to the front. I mean, just, doesn't have to be perfect. We're just practicing here. I'm going to take my selection tool, grab all of these. Be careful not to grab your title here. Put that out of the way. All right, grab all these. Object, pattern, make. And it says we added a new pattern to your swatch panel. Great. So this is the preview here. it has this awful white space here. So I got to select, instead of brick by column, we're going to go hex by row here. Or no, I'm sorry, hex by column. Let's go hex by column here. And now we have it almost perfect. Now let's get rid of this white space here. I'm going to hit size tile to art. And then, oh, I think we're having trouble with this letter spacing again here. So I guess you just have to put that in the center. It's kind of obnoxious. I guess we could have traced it with the pen tool and then we wouldn't have this issue with the font. I didn't know fonts did that. All right, so here's my pattern here. Hit done. I'll take this, select everything, and we'll move it out of the way. And then I'll take a big hexagon shape and I'll hold my shift key to lock it down. It's a little bit too big. Let's get it a little bit smaller. All right, now I'm gonna fill it with my pattern. It's too big, so we'll double click here. We'll grab everything and we'll hold my shift key down and resize it. Hit done. 1, 2, 3. Nope, still a little bit too big. Grab my selection tool, hit everything, hold my shift key down, resize it, hit done. There, 1, 2, 3. Hex. That's it. So when you're done with this, you'll save it as an Illustrator file in your Fashion Tech folder. So you put your last name here. You can call this one your last name and patterns, or Illustrator IL. And that's your homework. We have to convert that to a PDF, of course. Save as. We'll go Illustrator PDF. And we'll go to our PDF folder. And then we'll save that. And that one go. This is the PDF goes on Blackboard. Again, we got to change this to smallest file size. Make sure preserve editing capabilities is off because we have our master file already. Compression, image quality is on high. This is important. So our image quality stays high, and output, no conversion. These are all important settings. We're just going to keep on doing this over and over again for the whole semester. All right, that's out of the way. So if I wanted to put this hex pattern, we'll copy into my project here with paste. There's my pattern here. So once I have that, I can delete this. We'll fill that with our hex pattern. It's still too big. I got to shrink it down once again. We'll grab everything, hold the shift key down, make it small. 1, 2, 3. All right. Now I'm going to, that's a little bit too small. Let's make it a little bit bigger. All right. Now I'm going to save a copy. We'll call this one V2. Right, hit done. So here's my swatch. I see 1, 2, 3. That's good. My second square, I'll fill it with the V2, and then I'll double click it. Oh, I'm not double click it. I'm sorry. We'll just go color wheel it. Color wheel, and then we'll go advanced options and click on our new color group. There it is. Again, you can go in and change each color individually to fine tune it, but this is really all I need to see. And then you work on these two by yourself. So for the homework, let me show you. So the homework has those 5 artboards, and we're going to go to WGSN and we're going to grab like 10 photographs, and we'll resize them, and we'll mount them, and then we'll use these patterns here as inspiration to create motifs that we're going to use for our homework and or project. So you could kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone here and just look for patterns that kind of coincide with your theme. So if your theme is like, you know, spring flowers or something, you know, you're going to find a bunch of organic plant-looking pictures and motifs versus something like urban landscapes, and you'll find something more geometric or something like that. Let's see here. So, so So I think that's it. Let me see. So once you have your patterns here, and here, let me see if I can't find, here it is, print repeats. Not exist. All right, so this is your other file you have for your homework, and I kind of already made the 5 artboards for you, and I labeled it, 10 motifs, block, half drop, hex, and WGSN. So let me walk you through this. So to find the WGSN patterns here, we're going to go to, this is a Spark presentation. There's a WGSN button on most of them up through week 1 through week 4. If you click on it, it'll take you to the library database, and this is the portal you have to use to go to WGSN. Here it is, World Global Style Network. And so once you're in WGSN, you can go to research and create print and graphics. So here I am, research and create prints and graphics here. And you can find all kinds of patterns to look at. And I don't recommend hitting this download button. It may ask you for credentials you don't have. So if you can right click and copy, that would be great. Sometimes you can't. If you can't, just go ahead and take a screenshot and then bring it into Illustrator here. And I'm going to resize this picture. In this picture here, I have several shapes, right? So I see, I could probably get more than one motif out of this thing. So I'm going to grab my pen tool. Make sure you're drawing with black ink, or make sure you're drawing with the colored ink. And here I could start to trace out some of these shapes here. Of course, it doesn't have to be perfect. You're using these as like a inspirational springboard for motifs. Right, so there's one. And if you want to give it like a fill color, you can, but you don't have to. And then usually you just get one motif per picture, but in some instances, you may be able to get, if you see others that you like, you're welcome to grab those as well. No problem. So let me just show you that. Spacebar. All right, so let's go find another picture here. Prints and graphics. Are these reports? Maybe if I click on images. All right, so they change this website like every few months. You'll have to excuse me. Prints and graphics. Okay, so yeah. So once you click on the picture, oftentimes these pictures you cannot copy and paste. See, it says copy address. There's no copy option here. So I would just go back to this original page. Usually you can copy, this one you can't copy it either. So in this case, I would take a screenshot, Alt print screen. If on a Mac, it's Command Shift 4. And over here, I'll take this picture and you can crop the image right here. Hit the crop image button. And I'll crop the image. Apply. We'll resize this one. So this will be image number 2. And you need as many images as it takes to get 10 motifs here. So once I have here these 2 motifs, let me just draw a third one here. So P for pen tool. Not drawing with black, am I? Okay. Mango. Black. Right, I'll fix all that. Am I in isolation mode? I am. All right. So let me just quickly draw these lines here. No idea why this is not working for me. I think I'm drawing with like no ink. All right. Tracing 101, folks. First of all, take your picture. I'm going to reduce the opacity a little bit. Remember we did all this already? I'm going to go to my layer panel and we'll, I was trying to save some time and skip some steps and it started screwing me up. So let's go back to basic. I'm going to take my padlock and I'll lock it down. Now I can move this over and put this wherever I wanted. Grab my pen tool, make sure I'm drawing with black ink, right? And you see how every time I try to draw here, it says plus sign because it's drawing on top of an original anchor tool. So I'm going to make a new layer here. And it's still doing that. I'm going to just draw outside my artwork. And I'll use my direct select tool to fix that in a second. All right, so again, we are just looking for inspiration here. It doesn't have to be exact, right? So I'm going to grab all these lines here and we'll make them pointed. Where's this one pointed? This one, because I drew it the other direction. Okay, so once you have your motifs here, and of course you'll do a better job than this. I'm trying to rush this. All right, I'm going to grab all this here. We'll group it. All right, so let's say you have your motifs here. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. We'll go to our first page here and we'll paste these in over here, right? And then you have a motif. Probably make these bigger. All right, so this one will be motif 1, or you could do like an A. This one will be B. This one will be C. And you'll do that, and you'll make 10. 10 motifs, as many pictures as you need to get 10 from WGSN, and to make your block pattern. And so if you know your color story from your project, you could do your homework in the same color story, right? So if I were to grab my color story here, I'm going to grab my color story, and we'll go copy. And then over here, we'll just hit paste. And you can see here, I got some extra stuff here. But what happens is it brings in your colors, it brings in your Pantone colors from what you paste in. So I could select these colors that just showed up once I pasted that object in and say new color group, right? And so from that color group, I can now make my patterns pretty easy for my project. You got a rectangle here. You choose one of your colors, and whoops, then you're going to grab your shape here. Of course, this is a layer panel. We'll send that to the back. I can barely see this, so let's change the color of that. Oh, I shouldn't have dragged it. I should copy and paste it so I can leave my motifs here. All right, so over here, I'll copy and paste this one. Change the color to something I can recognize. That's my fill color. That's fine. And then this one here. Color from your color story. All right, so there's my 3 motifs. And then to make a block pattern, you just go Object, Pattern, Make. Make sure it's on grid. It says we've added a new swatch to your swatch panel. I think that's it. Oh, I just made a magenta. Let's cancel this one. Make sure you capture all of this. I just had my background selected when I made my pattern, so it made a pattern of magenta squares. So I'm going to grab everything here, including these 3 motifs. Object, Pattern, Make. It says we've added your pattern. There it is. I see it. Thank you. Here's the preview. We'll hit done. We'll call this one leaves. And we'll move this out of the way. We'll call that one block. And then we'll grab a big square here, and we'll fill it with our pattern. Make sure I see 3. It's still too big, so we'll double click this. Oops. Double click this. We'll grab everything and we'll shrink it down. Make sure size tile to art is turned on. All right. Hit done. 1, 2, 3. I could take this square right here, copy it. Now we go to our project, and we could paste it in. There's my new pattern. I can delete this square. I could change this. We don't want the in-class work. We want our homework here. I'll put my pattern in there. It's still too big. Let's go ahead and shrink it down. Hit done, right? Then we have this, I can't see the pattern. Remember somebody asked me earlier how to release that. File or Edit, Preferences, General, uncheck Transform Pattern Tiles. Move it around. Get it to where you like it. Then you do the same thing in reverse. Preferences, General, Transform Pattern Tiles. Dun, 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 dun. There it is. Now we need a second pattern with a different color story, so I will double click on my pattern. We'll say save as copy. We'll call this one leaves 2. And hit done. Click on this second square with our second pattern here. And then I need to change the colors, so I'll double click it. This is leaves 2. Oh, I'm not double clicking. We're just going to click it and then go to click on the square here, go to color wheel, advanced options, and we'll click on a different color group. And again, you can just move the order of the swatches around. It'll change the colors. Or you can just go in there individually. If you want to change the colors by hand, you can just go in here, your selection tool. You can click on any object and go, you know what, I want it green, or not for a fill. I want my outline to be green, right? And then when you change it, it changes for everything. It changes here, there, and then for your flats here. Remember this one? I'm gonna triple click here until I get to my my dress outline layer. Okay, and then I can fill it with my new pattern, right? Then double click when you're done, and there's one. And then of course they should have the same. The front and back should have the same outline. And these colors should come from your color story. So you'll pick like a color here, front and back, right? And then over here, and that's how you do that. And then so once you have your black and white, your two colors and your pattern, and you have your patterns and their colorways and all their stories with their Pantone codes, again, make sure I can read the text. So right here, black text on dark valued swatches are not good. I want to be able to read it. All right, so let's say we had all of our patterns filled here. So they should be the same pattern, same scale, same size, just different colors. All right, so once you have all of that, you can grab your color story. I'm going to make my guides. Yeah, we'll leave the guides there. I'm going to grab my color story. We'll copy, paste. And we can copy and paste again. Oops, that didn't work. Computer's tired. So some of you have noticed like your computer is starting to act goofy when you know you're doing the right thing and your computer is not acting well. That means your computer needs to take a nap. It needs to be shut down and restarted. And when you shut down a computer and restart it, it's just like going home, taking a shower, going to bed, and waking up in the morning. If you don't take a shower and go to bed at least once a day, you stop functioning very well. And the same thing happens with computers, right? So when you're done, this will be a one piece, top. Pretend this is a bottom. Pretend this is pretend these are 3 different garments, but you'll have something like this when you're done. And then you take this, you'll save your master file, of course. And then when you save that, you'll turn it into a PDF. You'll go File, Save As, and Adobe PDF. And then this, put it into your PDF folder. And then remember, smallest file size, make sure this is unchecked. Compression, image quality high. And output, say no conversion. And that is what is due by midnight. Our project 1 is due. By next week, this homework, before we meet in lab next week, this homework will be due, and this in-class work will be due. But in reality, in order to get your homework done, you'll have to finish your in-class to figure out what's going on. So you finish this one, then you do your homework. Once you have your homework done, you can do your projects. You don't have to do it in that order. You could do anyway, but this one's due tonight by midnight. All right, folks, get to work. I'll take questions for about 15 minutes if you have any, and then I have to cut and run and have to go to campus and teach another class. So I'm sorry I'm not giving you the full class time today, but I trust you guys have plenty to do. So go ahead, get started, try to do your work, and if you have any questions, ask me over the next 15 minutes.
With the colors of our patterns that we have, on the examples that you have from past students, they would use, for their first line of patterns, there are 5 different patterns. For the first line of the colors of them, they just use the colors that they used in the top row. I don't know how to explain it. Is that okay if we do that? Like
this?
Yeah, that person did that.
Yeah, so your flats, including the patterns, need to all come from these 5 colors.
Okay, perfect. And then, so how that person did it is fine?
Yes.
Okay, because that one and also the one that's underneath of it, the example, just kind of look different in a lot of ways. So that's why I wanted to ask, because the only thing I'm having trouble with is make sure I do the patterns right.
Yeah, I mean, the only way you can screw up the patterns is if I cannot see 3 motifs repeating, either horizontally or vertically, or if the second pattern is the exact same color as the first pattern. It has to be a different color, and it has to be the same scale. I don't want to see, like, you know, see this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 motifs across. I don't want to see 3 motifs across here and 6.5 motifs. They should just be the same pattern, same scale, just the color changed.
Okay, and then as far as motifs, when you say 3, do you mean just 3 separate shapes?
Yeah.
Okay, so like a flower has
yeah.
like leaves, petals. How would that work?
Okay, so if I zoom in on these patterns here, you'll see each one of these motifs has 3 different shapes involved in there. And so you should have at least 3 motifs, and then this three elements to your motif, and then this motif is repeating at least. I only need to see a minimum of 3 of these motif groupings horizontally or vertically. This student gave me 6.5. That's more than enough.
Okay.
I'm not sure what happened here with the blue line, but yeah. Oops.
And then it should be, we should include the hexagon one.
No, you can do it all brick on your project.
Okay, awesome.
The homework has to have like brick, half drop, and hex, but for your project 1, you could just do a brick pattern for all 3.
All right, thank you.
If you wanted. Sure.
Are we getting our little motifs from WGSN?
You're gonna get the main photographs that you use to draw your motifs. So these come from WGSN, and then from those photographs, you're gonna, you know, like, so if you look at this one up close, there's like a little sun and a bow and arrow and an eyeball here. Let's go see what she traced. A snake. Okay, there's got to be a snake in here someplace. Yeah, there's the snake right here. So she traced the snake here, and then, you know, and I'm not going to go and look at the photograph and go, you know what, this snake has 2 prongs on his tongue, and the picture only has one prong, I'm not going to look at that. You just look at this and you draw a motif based, you can look at this this is basically for inspiration. And if you want to draw like your version of that snake, that's fine. As long as it's like a snake or something.
It's like we get the image from WGSN, trace one of the things from it, and then do different things with that.
Yeah, you can trace it exactly or make it a little different. Just, if you have a snake picture, don't draw me, a sunflower.
Right.
And then go, well, it's a sunflower snake. I don't know, whatever.
Okay, and then totally different. I'm having the worst time trying to do the half drop and the hexagon ones.
Okay.
It literally just shows my pattern just in 2 columns. That's it. Like I got the first one fine, but the other 2 are not good.
So your half drop. So click on your square that has your pattern, and then in your swatch panel you'll see the pattern that you used highlighted, right?
Yeah.
It's like a little white. Now double click on that highlighted swatch.
Yeah.
And you see your preview, and then inside the blue square is your area of repeat.
Yeah.
And if you're seeing something like this, is that what you're looking at?
Like I have it half drop, but like only 2 of them come into the square that I made. Like the big rectangle that or the thing you just got, and then you put the pattern inside of it. Like it's only showing 2 columns.
You mean?
Like once I get out of the pattern.
You mean it's like this? Like it's so big you only see 2 columns? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
All right, well, you just zoom out, Control minus.
Okay, all right.
Then, this black square, this is your artboard.
Mm-hmm.
And the blue square is your area of repeat. And so if it's way too big, just, grab everything and shrink it way down. Shrink it down.
Oh, that makes sense now. All right. And then make sure it says size, style to art and everything.
Yeah. And then these letters are a little tricky because they have like some kind of weird white border. I'll have to fix that. Okay. I didn't know that the text did that. I've never used, normally we had like bunny rabbits before. I hated that. So I was like, let's do something fun. And now I'm introducing complexity. I'm sorry about that.
So then basically just like the same thing for the hexagon then?
Yeah. Okay. Hexagon, yeah, it's going to be hex by column. Make sure everything's small enough to fit inside your artboard or in your swatch. It just has to be scale.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Sure.
Okay, I just wanted to ask 2 questions really quick.
Sure.
Okay, so does the picture we choose for the color story need to be in the project, like where we have the pictures of our clothing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the mosaic, something like this.
Okay.
So it'll be like top, bottom, one piece, front and back, and then you'll have these little. You'll have one picture and then one mosaic.
Okay. And then just because my I don't know, my laptop has been a little bit weird. I just want to just be clear about this also. So the motif for the patterns in the project, they need to be from WGSN, or we can like create it from something else or by like imagination.
Your project, you do whatever you want from your own imagination. The more from yourself, the better.
Okay.
You could use your own photographs as a source. You could use, you could just walk around your room and take pictures of something. For your homework, this one is from WGSN.
Right.
But your project, but I was just saying, for your homework, if you chose patterns that looked like something from your project, you could kill 2 birds with 1 stone and take these 3 patterns here, and you could just throw them into your project swatches. That way you wouldn't have to make 5 patterns by midnight.
Right.
But you saw how to create a block pattern, you just draw 3 things, put a background on it, hit object, pattern, make, and you're done.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question.
No problem.
So for when we pick our colors for our color story to fill our clothes with, for each clothing item, are they the same 3 colors or do do they just
It's up
differ
to
from
you. If you want to, if you want to use the same colors and same pattern for all 3 pages, that's fine. If you want to just mix it up and show all the different varieties of colors you have from your color story in there, that's fine.
all right.
I think though the front and back should probably be the same color.
Right. Yeah.
But if you whatever you want to do, you could have fun with it.
All right. That's all. Thank you.
Sure. So make sure by midnight you have whatever you have done. Even if you're not finished, you upload that before midnight, and then because at midnight I'm going to go in and I'm going to mark zeros on anybody who hasn't handed anything in. But if you handed, but I'm not going to look at it at midnight because I got to go to bed. But in the morning, or maybe after my class, after probably lunch, I will go and start grading, and then I'll start opening them. So as long as you have something uploaded by midnight tonight, it'll look like you finished. And then if you need more time, go ahead and go to sleep and then wake up early and finish it, and then get it in as soon as possible. As long as you can get it in before I grade it, I'll take the later submission. I'll do this up to like midterms, kind of be nice to everybody. And then after midterms, I start to get super strict. But right now, just because y'all haven't figured out your pacing yet, like you think, oh, I could do this by midnight, and then at midnight you're like, holy crap, I can't finish this by midnight. Take a little bit extra time, make sure you have something uploaded, then you go and you finish it. As long as you can finish it before I grade it, I'll grade the most recent one you have uploaded. Okay.
For next week before a lab, we have to have the 10 images and the 10 motifs, and then we have to have in-class work, right?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
When are you gonna post the recording?
I don't post it. It posts automatically.
Okay.
Because it's like 2.5 hours. It'll take like 20 minutes or so.
Okay.
Maybe half an hour. I don't know. So go out and make yourself a sandwich, then come back and look for it. You all know how to find it, right? Do I need to show everyone where it's at? Right here. Not right there. Blah, blah. You go to Blackboard Collaborate, of course, and then there's the little, we call this the hamburger symbol. It's like 3 lines. That's the menu. They should label this. I don't know why they never, this is ridiculous. You click on here, you click that, and then it says recordings here. Click on recordings, and then you find your section, find the one you want to watch again. Yay. So we do this synchronously because I'm live. If we did it asynchronously, where I just made videos without you having a human being to talk to, I could make the videos shorter, more polished. But you're paying money, so pay money to talk to a human being. Here I am. Go ahead, insult me, somebody.
Actually, to uninsult you, today in my fashion sewing class, I had a bunch of students say they had you as a teacher and they loved having you because you were hilarious.
Oh, it's hard for me to be funny by myself in the basement without having my neighbors call for a wellness check. Dave Hahn is dancing around, but that's nice. I'm a little bit more, now that everything's being recorded, I'm like, okay, I got to be careful what I talk about because I have a tendency to let my mouth run, and it gets me in trouble. It has gotten me in trouble when I was a college student. Now that I'm a college professor, I'm like, I wake up in the middle of the night thinking, oh my God, I'm getting fired. Oh wait, that was a dream. I did say that. All right. I'm almost. Anyone have any last minute questions? I gotta go.
I do.
Great.
I have like two questions. So one, were we supposed to have a picture of the back of the garment too that we like traced?
Yeah.
I mean, I just did it like freehand because I didn't have any pictures, but I didn't realize I was supposed to. Anyways, my last question is so my artboards got like really like tilted for some reason, and I can't figure out how to get them back like straight.
Oh, the rotation. So here, let me show you. I'm gonna teach you how to fish here. Watch. You go to Google, type in Illustrator, artboards rotated, and then it's like rotate canvas using rotate view tool. Click and hold the hand tool and select rotate.
What's the hand tool?
That's this thing right here.
Oh, okay.
Where's the
All right.
rotation? Did you get it?
Let me try it.
Wait, let me say, artboards rotated, here, accidentally, rotate. If you've accidentally activated canvas rotate by pressing the R key and then double click on the icon as marked, that should reset the orientation. R key. I hope that's working. So just press the R key down and double click on the artboard. Does that reset it?
It's not working for me, but
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Choose view, reset, rotate view. Rotate view.
okay, that worked. Yeah, that worked.
View, rotate view. There you go. Anybody
Okay,
else?
thank you.
Sure. And all I did was I hit Google with that, I mean, they change. The thing about software is it changes like every 3 months. They change something, they fix something, they move it around. So even as somebody who's been using the Adobe Suite I've been using this, my goodness, I've been using it for many years. Every few months, especially every year, they come out with changes. Yeah, remember that tool you used to love using? It's gone. Now we have this tool. Illustrator and Photoshop used to be enemies. They were two different companies. Photoshop was made by Adobe. Illustrator was made by a company called Macromedia. And then they had the big war, and Apple just made a lot of money and then bought Macromedia and then swallowed it. And then for like about 7 years, it was just awful. They were trying to add in the Macromedia, the Illustrator tools into Photoshop, and it was just a big mess. Now, after Creative Cloud came out, everything seems to be working well. We have this almost seamless integration between Photoshop tools and when you open Photoshop, when we get to that next week, you're going to see all the Illustrator tools are inside of Photoshop as well. So they've successfully blended the two. Anyway, any questions?
One more question. So
Sure.
when it goes, do the clothing items need to be in a certain order, like one piece, bottom, top, or
No.
Okay.
I mean, it shouldn't look haphazard. This is looking a little bit haphazard, my example here. You should have them just aesthetically, just arranged in an aesthetically pleasing manner.
Okay.
I mean, I can't really tell you specifically what's the best way because everyone draws it different. Some people just have it 4 across. Some people have it all diagonally. Just however you can get it to fit, just make sure they're consistent across the artboards. Make sure the garments aren't butting up against the edges of the artboard, and make sure it just doesn't look all crazy, or you have like too much empty white space. Like, don't make it look like this, where you have a bunch of white space down here. Try to arrange it nicely. You know, I'll see a lot of stuff like this. Usually it's something like something like that, or you know, I don't know. It's up. Just there's no wrong way to do it. I mean, well, here's the wrong way to do it. The wrong way to do it is to have, you know, them up against the edge like this, and then you know, one's over here, and the rest are like over here, and then the pieces are all down here. You know, don't do that. Here's the test. The test is like you walk into a room with these printed out on giant foam core board, and the room is filled with millionaires, and they're like, "Why should I give you any money?" And you're like, "Look at my designs," and you want to look at that and go, "Would I give myself money? Does it look good enough?" Some people do it like this. Just put the only order I require is the black and white one is first, then your two color, and then the pattern is the last one. But you know, any arrangement you want outside of that should be fine. And then don't do this. Don't make them like don't skew your artwork so they look really fat or they look super skinny. Like just to try to get it to fit on the artboard. Don't skew your images. You'll lose 5 points per image if it's skewed. So make sure they retain their proportions. All right. Are there any other questions? If there are no more questions, I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to stop the recording.